Welcome to the Baseball Together podcast, baseball family. For those of you new to the show, we are here to raise money for the nonprofit organization called UP, whose mission is to give disadvantaged young ball players the equipment they need to play the game we all love. We also want to unite communities by improving or rebuilding baseball facilities in areas suffering economic or environmental hardship. At this time, you can support by purchasing t-shirts and other baseball-related apparel and accessories from 9plusus.com. 10% of all sales go directly to the cause. Again, that's 9plusus.com. That's the number 9, PLUSUS.com. 9plusus.com. We hope you enjoy this episode of the Baseball Together podcast, brought to you by 9plusus.
Good morning, baseball family, and welcome to the Baseball Together podcast. I am Brig, and I'm bringing this to you today with Brad, as always.
As always.
Today we got a lot going on for you. We got some current events that we think are really important that we need to talk about, and we want your opinions on. And then we are going to talk about second half baseball.
Yeah, we will. All right, should we get into it?
Let's do it, man.
All right, before we get into anything, though, let's talk a little bit about the All-Star game. Brig, I want to know some of your thoughts on what you saw between the Home Run Derby and the All-Star game. What did you think?
Oh, my gosh. First of all, that is the Home Run Derby I have been waiting for my entire life.
Yep, it was. That was awesome. Phenomenal.
I've never seen anything like that. And that is the Home Run Derby I think we all build up in our minds. When we think Home Run Derby, we think the second round between Jock Peterson and Vlad Guerrero.
Oh, yeah, that's the way it should be. That is the way the Home Run Derby should be. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
It was magical. I have friends who missed it, and I don't understand.
Oh, man.
I feel so bad for them because there was nothing better of nothing. And this is kind of crazy, but I don't think Major League Baseball will ever put out such a good product ever again.
Oh, there will never be another Home Run Derby like that. And the thing, too, is we're going to watch it 5 years down the road, and we're just going to be watching it, and it's not going to be the same. It's just going to be, oh, here comes the second round. Yeah, he's doing it. It's not going to be we hit another one. He tied it up.
God.
Like, I was losing my mind when they hit the swing off. And then they hit the... I couldn't believe it. It's a swing off. What?
I was trying to be so careful because we have a 2-year-old and she was asleep upstairs.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly hard because I was standing up, pacing around, pumping my fists and looking at my wife, looking at Tiffany like, did you see that? Oh my gosh. I'm texting people furiously. We, on the private Facebook group we had a running watch party going and this discussion feed. So that made it really fun to watch people just go berserk with us.
Oh yeah, that was a whole lot of fun. I think we should keep doing those for big events like that, and I hope they grow because that was a blast. That was a blast to see other people's reactions to that.
Yeah, we did it for the London series, and then we did it again for the All-Star game itself. But that Home Run Derby little watch party we did was so much fun.
Yeah, it helps the event was that good. So.
Seriously.
Yeah, that was a blast.
Yeah, what a cool experience. And good for Polar Bear Pete Alonso for being able to win while hitting so many fewer home runs.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he came through when it mattered was kind of the thing. You know, he hit just as many as he needed to get through. But I feel like they kind of need to reseed as it goes on because since Vlad had hit so many home runs going into the final, you got to let him go second.
I would think so.
You know, you can't be like, oh, well, he's the 8th seed, so he goes first. No,
right?
He earned the right to go second on that. So, I don't know.
Interesting.
Pete Alonso won the Home Run Derby, but Vlad Guerrero Jr. he won the night for sure.
Oh yeah, and he won the hearts of everyone.
Yeah.
Like, if you were not a Vlad Guerrero Jr. fan,
And I don't know how you couldn't be already.
How could you not be? But he came in with 8 home runs in the regular season so far in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And then he hit, 91 in one night?
Yep.
It was crazy. And the sound of that ball coming off his bat was just bonkers.
Yeah, it sounds different.
Oh, my gosh.
And this is the thing. So you say he only had 8 home runs on the season coming in. And this is why I say it's unfortunate that he's stashed away in Toronto.
Yeah.
Because most people see 8 home runs and they think, who's this guy coming in?
Yeah.
Vlad Guerrero, I know his dad, but who's this kid coming in? It's hard to pay attention to players in Toronto. It's hard to pay attention to those guys because since they are in a different country, and MLB TV makes it easier, but it's easier to pay attention to guys who are even playing in Kansas City than it is in Toronto.
Yeah.
That's why I say that it's unfortunate he's stashed away in Toronto. That's the only reason. So let's talk a little bit about the game itself, about the All-Star game. I know it wasn't the most exciting All-Star game in the world, but I liked it. I was entertained just because I'm here for incredible pitching. That's one of the things I love about the All-Star game is you get to see all the best pitchers in the game and you get to see their nastiest stuff. And I think that's a blast. I think that's so much fun to watch. And it was definitely on display during this game.
It really was.
Incredible. And, the hitters kind of finally caught up at the end, like what we talked about, how, those bench guys come in and they get things going at the end of the game. There was the National League had an opportunity to really get things going and tie it up and make it a great game. And those 7th, 8th, 9th innings were excellent. But before that, it was all pitching.
Yeah.
All pitching.
It really was. Couple of loud hits leading up to that. But ultimately, and you're right. We talked about this last week. That's exactly how it goes, right? The guys come in and dominate the first half of the game because they're first and second string guys, and it's pretty lopsided. And then the second half of the game, and from the 7th inning on, you got those third string guys who they really, like I said, they have something to prove, and they did. Mm-hmm. They came out and proved it. So that's always fun. But I'll tell you one of the things that I loved about this All-Star game. They got to mic up more people because
that needs to be a thing.
It needs to be a thing because I did not know Freddie Freeman was so freaking funny. I had no idea.
That's the best at bat. It felt like on Benchwarmers when John Hader's up and he's like, "Could you tell him to slow it down?" Did you tell him? That's what it felt like.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He was so funny, and him and Verlander are chirping at each other. He's like, "Throw strike, throw strike,
me something to swing at."
Yeah. When he got on the first base, he was cheesing people, and oh man, it was just he was the best part of the whole first half of the game for me.
Oh, he was. He definitely was.
I want more of that.
Yes. Yeah, I need more of that. I need more of it because I think I just like the sounds of the game.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more to it that you don't hear, you don't see. And it's a fun peek behind the curtain. I'm all about behind the scenes stuff. I always have been and I love it in baseball. So
yeah, I agree with you.
They need to do more of that.
Yeah. So we got to talk about Lucroy-Marisnick.
Yes, we do. I want you to start off with this. So that was a pretty nasty collision at home plate.
Yeah.
I want to hear your thoughts about this first. And this happened, for those of you who don't know, this happened right before the All-Star break. There was a collision at the plate. Jonathan Lucroy got mowed over.
He's the catcher.
Yeah, the catcher got mowed over by Jake Marisnick. What are your thoughts on this, Brig?
Well, for those of you listening that maybe don't know old school baseball, there's always been this catcher mentality that the plate is mine, right? And that's how they feel. And going back even just 20 years, the catchers are taught to obstruct the base path, right? Whether they're doing it overtly or not is one thing, right? Because that's a different topic. But there's this mentality that this is my plate, and if I have a play, then I'm going to put myself in between you and the base runner coming from third to home. And historically, especially way back 50, 60 years ago, these collisions were super common.
Mm-hmm.
And holding onto the baseball for the catcher was a big deal, right? To see if you could take a hit.
It's a badge of honor.
Yeah, it is. You take a hit, you hold onto the ball, and you get the out, right? And so it's this deep-rooted cultural thing. So for those of you that don't know the history there, that's kind of a really surface-level history lesson on it. But it is important to understand that because Major League Baseball has implemented a new rule that makes it so you can't collide with the catcher at home plate.
And there is basis for that rule too. For anyone again who doesn't know about that, Giants catcher Buster Posey had his leg broken during a collision.
That's right. And we're talking a lot about concussions in baseball right now.
Yes,
mostly with catchers, but for good reason. There's a lot of concussions that I think are going undisclosed, and they aren't
or undiagnosed.
Exactly. Well, if the players aren't copping to it, then they can't get help. So anyway, there's some of the context here. Now, for this particular incident, my thoughts and feelings are that Lucroy didn't do anything wrong, and that Marisnick lowered his shoulder and took a half step inside, like toward the plate, maybe to force the collision. I don't know. He says that he didn't do anything intentional, and I think he's right. I think it was just a bad circumstance where they are playing adrenaline-filled baseball. They have they have muscle memory that they're relying. Because this is a new rule that you can't collide at home plate, or so.
Yeah, I think it's within the last 6 or 7 years.
It is new, and admittedly, the rule we should have the rule up, but admittedly, the rule is a little bit confusing. So anyway, the point is, I think what happened is Lucroy stepped backward a little bit once he caught the ball because he's turning to make the play. And then Marisnick, his instincts and his history and his, experience kicks in and he collides with the catcher. I think it all happened simultaneously. Now, at the same time, though, he put his head down. Marisnick put his head down, and that head-to-head contact is the problem. So a lot of people are up in arms about the 2-game suspension and whether or not he deserves or the situation warrants a 2-game suspension. And I think it does because we're talking about a player's safety. People are comparing it to Manny Machado earlier bumping chests with the home plate umpire a couple weeks ago, which we talked about, where he threw his bat and he got a 1-game suspension. Yeah. But the difference here is that nobody's life was on the line, right? Nobody was truly career-ending possibility. Yeah. Those are my thoughts.
So I feel very passionate about this, having been a catcher. That was my primary position for a long time. And even going back 24 years when I started catching, one of the first things they told me, because I would just, if there was a play, I would stand over the plate. I was like, okay, get me the ball so I can make the play, kind of like a third baseman or second baseman if you're waiting to make the tag. But I even had an umpire tell me, like, son, you're going to want to take 2-3 steps out in front of the plate or you're going to get hurt. They're going to come take you out. And I had it happen multiple times where I was even a step or two in front of the plate waiting for the ball to come in and took a hit. I remember the first one I took, this kid. So when I was 10 years old, we were playing a league up because there were a couple kids on the team who were a year older. They were in our grade, but they were a year older, so we had to play up. So these kids were bigger than us, considerably bigger. But this kid, the way he came in and hit me, it was like a hit on Mighty
Yeah.
Ducks. He like hit me low, and I flipped over his
Oh.
back, and it knocked the wind out of me. And I remember just hitting the ground, and I don't know where the ball was. I have no idea. But my coach came out and had us all come around and stand around the mound. You know, everybody looked at me, and he's like, "Are you all right?" And I was like, yeah, you know. And I was just like, I don't want to have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
That's not a part of catching that I enjoyed, because yeah, you have the gear on, but it's not like football gear. They're not
No,
like
for
football
sure.
pads. It's not meant to protect you from a hit from another person. It's meant to absorb contact from a baseball. So and people say, "Oh, the catcher has the gear." Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of. It's not that kind of gear. It doesn't do anything on that respect. And watching this collision, this is a 15-yard penalty and an ejection in the NFL.
Yeah, it is.
That's straight up targeting. If that's illegal in the NFL, there is nothing that's okay with that in today's MLB. It's 2019. I'm sorry, we're beyond this, right? I mean, we've talked about concussions. Buster Posey broke his leg in a collision, and that was a freak accident. Because I still don't know how that happened with his shin guards. That seems like it should act like a natural splint, and that shouldn't happen. But as far as hitting a guy in the face, I don't think it's okay. And what I've watched this a number of times just because I couldn't believe it. I audibly gasped the first time I saw it, because I couldn't believe what I had seen, and especially with the way Lucroy was down and out on the ground. I mean, he said that he doesn't really remember the collision. In his words, he said, "The last thing I remember was reaching for the ball. The next thing I remember was being put on a cart."
Whoa.
That is legit.
Yeah, that's bad for you too.
Yeah, that he's going to be out a long time. He's obviously got a concussion. He's got a broken nose, and from what I saw in this was Lucroy was in the perfect position to field the ball. He was in fair territory out in front of the plate. He had to reach a little bit for the ball because it's a little bit to his right, and then Marisnick had a clear path to go slide around him. He very easily could have taken a half a step to his right instead of a full step to his left to take out Lucroy.
Right.
He could have gone a half step to his right, slid around Lucroy, and been safe.
Yeah.
He beat the throw.
Extend the hand.
Yeah. There was no reason for him to do this. I honestly think 2 games in baseball is nothing. He should have gotten more. That's my opinion about this whole thing. Is that if you're gonna make it, if a guy's gonna miss significant time because of something you did to him that was illegal, you've got to miss more time. And I have this conversation with my mom a lot, because we were at a Blazers game one time where Trevor Ariza took out Rudy Fernandez, and he missed significant time with a back injury. And we had a lot of discussion where she says, you should have to miss the amount of time that the guy's missing with the injury if you caused it.
Huh.
And I think that's steep, but at the same time, I don't know.
It's maybe closer to what it should be than 2 games.
Yeah, because you're causing this guy to miss time, and it could affect his livelihood. Rudy Fernandez never recovered from that injury.
Yeah.
He ended up playing maybe a year or 2 after that in the NBA, but he never was the same. His back, that injury lingered the rest of the time he was in the NBA. And who knows how long it's going to take Lucroy to recover from this, because we're going to talk about Francisco Cervelli here in a little bit. He's been on the IL since May with a concussion, and that was from foul tips. So I think that Marisnick, and I know he checked on him and everything, that he didn't mean to jar him, hit him that hard, ring his bell the way that he did, because I saw him check on him, and I appreciate that. But at the same time, that can't happen. We've got to be beyond that with awareness of concussions, long-term effects of concussions and injuries. And these guys this is their livelihood.
Yeah, it is.
And I understand you're making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to play a game, but that's still how they're providing for their family. And the idea behind all of that is they're trying to provide for generations to come as well. They're not just trying to provide for their kids and give them private schools and things like that. They're trying to make it better for their kids and their kids.
Yeah.
And if you understand that, you understand why these guys get so mad at things like that. And I don't know. I obviously I'm pretty worked up about it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think plowing over the catcher in a situation like that I mean, that's like hitting a defenseless receiver because Lucroy didn't even have the ball yet. That it's not okay, and we've got to be beyond this in today's game. So
I like that.
I'm gonna step down from my soapbox and let's talk a little bit more about Francisco Cervelli. So Francisco Cervelli's, I think I saw that he's had like six concussions.
Yeah, it is.
And he's been on the injured list since May 25th, trying to recover from this last one. And as a catcher, I mean, obviously I went on this whole thing about catchers and having been a catcher. I know of one concussion I got in baseball, and that was actually from a hit by pitch. But looking back, I'm like, I probably had more.
Yeah.
I don't know how many more, because I took a lot of foul tips. There's a couple times that umpires when I first started catching, one umpire, he's like, "Son, are you all right?" I was like, "Yeah, why?" He's like, because they call catcher's interference. I thought maybe he hit my glove, but he's like, "He just hit you in the head with his bat," because his kid had a really long swing. I was like, "Oh, I didn't feel it." He's like, "All right."
Okay.
But I feel like this is kind of an important thing, that we don't know exactly how many concussions these catchers have had. I mean, this is his sixth concussion that he knows of.
You're right.
Exactly. Because I got hit by a pitch, and my coach was like, "You all right?" And he kind of did the finger thing, where you joke and you separate them. He's like, and my eyes didn't cross or whatever, roll in the back of my head. And he's like, "Oh, you're fine. Go ahead and get back out there."
Jeez.
So I went back out to catch an inning, and I was missing everything. And he kind of yells out to me. He's like, "Hey, you all right?" I was like, "There's two baseballs." I don't know which one to catch. So they had me come out, and I ended up going to see the doctor. But
too bad there weren't three. You just catch the one in the middle.
that's what we said. They're like, "Just catch the middle one." I was like, "Well, there's not a middle one. There's only two."
For all of you that don't know, that was a Rocky reference.
Yes,
it's fine. Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think that Major League Baseball needs to take a closer look at this. I think it's a hot topic. It's been a quiet topic for a really long time. I'm proud of Cervelli for bringing it up and owning it and saying, "Look, we got a problem." It's just like any of these other what you might call silent injuries or silent insidious killers, like depression or suicidal thoughts, or I think concussions fit that same category, right? It's so bad, and it has to be treated so aggressively and delicately. On the human side, we have to treat it delicately because it is these guys' livelihood, and they are working desperately to stay in games and to perform at their highest peak level of performance. But at the same time, so I gotta have more from manufacturers. I gotta have more from equipment manufacturers who are teaming up maybe with what the guys producing NFL helmets and are doing, because there's more that can be done, right? And as much as it pains me to say this, I think that the guys with the hockey mask style catcher's masks, I think they stand a better chance than the guys with the old iron face mask with the padded leather. Even though I prefer the padded leather iron face mask, I think that going to a more reinforced helmet would be a great step forward. And so I don't know what the answer is, but I want to see more from a manufacturer's, whatever you call it. I want to see more from them.
Yeah, and I feel like, and I loved my old school mask. I liked the weight of it. I liked that it felt. I liked the way that it came apart. It was easier to pull off for me. But I do feel like those goalie style masks, I do feel like they're better for concussions, because I feel like anytime, because I had to wear one a couple times just because that was what was available, if I didn't have my gear with me or whatever. I feel like if you take a foul tip off that, it kind of rattles around in the mask. Like the mask kind of rattles around, that you don't feel as much of the impact. Whereas if you're taking a foul tip off the other one, everything's so tight on your head, you know it. You know that it just hit you in the face. So,
yeah, right.
Whereas as a goalie mask, you mostly just hear it because it absorbs so much more of the impact. So
interesting.
So yeah, I would like to see more from the manufacturers, from the companies who make the equipment, to see what they can do as far as protecting these catchers. I think I noticed just before the All-Star break, somebody had, it looked like a little bit extra padding between their forehead, like the top of their mask and their helmet. And I was like, I wonder if that's to help with the impact and help with concussions. I don't know if that's what it is, or if maybe it was, I don't know. But it looked like maybe they are headed in the direction of kind of absorbing some of that impact and helping catchers in that aspect. But no, I do think it, like you said, it's an important conversation that needs to be happening, and even with umpires too, because they're not even wearing a helmet back there; they just have their hat and their mask. And I know of one umpire, I can't think of his name right now, who's from the Portland, Oregon area, and since my dad lives up there, he listens to a couple of radio shows, and that guy comes on every once in a while, and he actually retired because of concussions.
Wow.
He took a foul tip off the face mask, and he got carted off the field, and he said, "This is it. I don't need to be doing this anymore."
Right.
So
that's what Cervelli said. He's done.
Yeah, and he actually walked that back on Friday. He said that he's going to try to get back into it, but I don't know if he's going to be catching as much. He's kind of worked around the field a little bit in other positions. I think he's going to try to do that a little bit more.
Good for him.
But I mean, he's got to get off the IL first. So we'll see how that goes. Well, let's go ahead and take a little bit of a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about robot umpires, and then we're going to get into some predictions for the rest of the season.
Boom.
Hey, Mike, Catherine, those are some cool t-shirts you guys have.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I got it from 9plusus.com. They have tons of great baseball designs.
Yeah, I wear my 9plusus clothing all the time. My favorite gym tank says diamonds are everyone's best friend. And my go-to shirt for barbecue says a hot dog at the ballpark is better than steak at the Ritz.
Wow, I love that.
Right? Isn't that so cool? Yeah, I also got this snapback from 9plusus. They're really the greatest stuff.
Well, I'm going to have to do some shopping after this batter. What was that site again?
So yeah, it's 9plusus.com. So the number 9, right? 9 players on the field plus us. So 9, the number 9, PLUSUS.com.
Shop 9plusus.com. Apparel for game day and every day.
We are back. Thank you for joining us, baseball family. So we went a little bit long in that last segment, so we wanted to take a short break and come back and talk a little bit about some robot umpires. Personally, well, let's get into this first. The Atlantic League, the independent league, they implemented robot umpires into their All-Star game this last week. What do you think about robot umpires? Do you think it's necessary? Do you think it's good for the game? Do you think we should have robot umpires?
Absolutely not.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so. And I'm not going to apologize for that opinion.
I don't expect you to.
Yeah.
I go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. I have a lot to say about this. First and foremost, it's a human game. And I just think we should keep it that way. I think that first of all, that's the basis of my entire argument. But I think it diminishes the fan experience. That's my number one concern. And I only put it as my number one concern because fan experience is all of baseball's concern, right? Everything that we're talking about when it comes to rule changes and different technology implementation has to do with the fan experience. It has to do with the overall product and its delivery. And I think that by implementing robot umpires, you're taking away from that. So yelling at an umpire, as stupid as it sounds, but that is part of the fan experience. I can't tell you how many times I have heard my dad yell, "Come on, Blue," at the TV, at a game, at a Little League game. It doesn't matter what the stage is, but "Come on, Blue" is like burned into my memory, and it is forever tied to baseball. And it gives all of the fans something to rally around, right? Even if you see the most bitter rivalries or the tightest games, the fans can all agree or disagree on the umpire, right? There's always that, whether it's consistency or it's inconsistency, it unites the fans, and I'm all about that. So that's my first thing. I do think also that it forces pitchers not just to improve, but to be perfect, and that is bad for baseball. I go back to this being a human game. We don't need forced perfection. What we need is perfection that is sought after and strived for. And that is something that is possible now, but when we get into this electronic umpire situation, I think you're forcing guys to be perfect. And that brings me to my next point that I feel very strongly about. I think it's going to slow the game down. And that is another hot button topic.
Yeah.
It's going to slow the game down, because what it's going to do is it's going to remove that variable that helps pitchers get strikeouts. It's going to remove the question in the batter's mind. And so guys are just going to not swing at low and outside. They're just not, because they're going to know that 9 times out of 10 low and away is going to be called a ball by a TrackMan or the ABS. They're calling it the automated ball strike system or caller or whatever they're calling it. So I think that we're going to end up with more base on balls, and that is going to slow the game down, and that's bad for baseball. Tell me what you think, and then we will go into what the group thinks. We had a couple of comments.
Yeah, so I'm all about robot umpires. And I think this, again, goes back to my days as a catcher, having been like, Blue, you called that strike 3 on me. What's the deal? That's ball 3 on this guy? You know, I wasn't afraid to let umpires know what I thought. And I'm all about robot umpires for the number one reason of consistency. It drives me insane to watch a game and see a pitch that's borderline strike 3 beginning of the game. Big spot later in the game, exact same pitch, same four-seam fastball, same bottom of the zone, middle away, and it's ball 4, right? It's like,
sure.
Whoa, hold on, that's not consistent. That's what makes me crazy, and that's part of what drives me crazy about having the strike zone on the screen, is that we're so much more conscious of it. Is that if we didn't have that, if we didn't have all the stat cast and everything going through and showing us the exact location of every pitch and showing us exactly how many pitches the umpires are missing, missing 6 inches off the plate because of a breaking ball or whatever, I don't know. I don't think I'd be so bothered by it, but by seeing the inconsistency, and I'll give umpires this: Major League umpires are very good. Okay, because I've seen some minor league umpires who were very bad. In fact, I was talking to a minor league umpire supervisor one time, and he's like, "I'm here to fire that guy because he's so bad."
Yeah,
Wow. So, and he was, anyways, that's a different story. So I've seen some really bad umpiring, seen some really inconsistent umpiring, and I feel like this is going to help with that. And I don't feel like it's going to slow the game down at all. I think it's going to actually speed it up because there's no arguing balls and strikes anymore. Managers and players they can't get bent out of shape about a call anymore because there's no arguing with the location of a pitch. I mean, it might be like, that machine working? You sure? Yeah, it's working.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Like, I feel like that's the most anybody can do. And there are guys who have an incredible command of the strike zone. Guys like, these are guys from growing up, like Tony Gwynn, Edgar Martinez, and now I'm going to go back to my guy, Daniel Vogelbach, has an incredible command of the strike zone.
Totally.
So there might be more walks, but those guys are walking anyway. Like, if there's a pitch off the plate, my dad always said, if Edgar doesn't say it's a strike, it's not a strike. There's certain guys who are that way, who have that much of a command of the strike zone, and I feel like more guys will get that way because they'll have a better feel for what the zone really is, because it is consistent and it is set.
Yeah.
There's no walking up there and being like, is he going to call 3 inches off the plate, or is he going to, or a pitcher, is he going to give me the black? Guys like Greg Maddux would thrive, I feel like, with a robot umpire.
Maybe
because he would hit the corners. He'd hit the corners of the strike zone so precisely, and everything would be a strike. Guys would be like, "Gosh, I don't know what to do with this guy. That looks like a ball when it's coming in, but it's got to be a strike somehow. So I feel like it could help with offense too, because guys have, like I said, guys are going to get a better understanding of the strike zone. Guys who think maybe 2 inches off the, think that the edge of the plate is 2 inches off the plate, they're going to get a better understanding that is the edge of the plate. You got to swing at that. It's going to get guys swinging more at pitches that they thought were balls all along. So I think it's good for the game as far as consistency. I think it's going to help the pace of play, that there's not going to be nearly as many ejections for arguing balls and strikes, because that gets out of control, I feel like. And
it can. It's come down a lot in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, because it's an automatic ejection, but still, guys will just take it anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
But I feel like everybody's going to get a better command for the strike zone with it too.
Interesting.
So,
but what do you think about this argument about human element?
You'll still get a human element. It won't so much be in the strike zone, because I took my son to a Boise Hawks game Friday night. We went to our first game. It was a blast. They are the short season A affiliate of the Colorado Rockies, and the very first batter of the game for the Hillsboro Hops hit a ball down the third base line, and it was close. I'll be honest with you, it was close. I thought it was fair. The umpire called it fair, but everybody else behind me thought it was foul. We were sitting behind home plate, and the rest of the game, this goes into your heckling the umpire too. Anytime there's a foul ball, like anybody hit a foul ball backwards, obvious foul ball down the line, this one guy would yell, "Fair ball!" So there's still the human element as far as fair, foul, whatever, and there is replay for that at the big league level.
Yeah.
And you can still heckle the umpire, because there's going to be something that's going to happen somewhere on the bases, or a ball down the line, something like that. There's still a human element as far as that goes. But I feel like at the plate, where guys make their money pitching and hitting, that's a spot where there's got to be consistency with robot umpires.
Okay, so just so everyone at home knows, this electronic umpire, robot umpire thing at the plate will not replace the home plate umpire.
Right.
That guy or gal is going to still be behind the plate making calls, and what they will do, and what they're doing now, is they'll have an earpiece, and somebody up in the booth watching TrackMan will relay the call down to the umpire. And when they piloted it in the Independent League All-Star game this week, I guess this would be last week now, we saw that there were a couple times where the system went down or the earpiece didn't work, and the umpire still had to make those calls.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's obviously not a perfect system. There's a lot that needs to be tweaked if it's going to ever be used again, not just in the big leagues, but even in the minor leagues. And that home plate umpire is still going to be there. So just to let people know, they're not going to replace the plate umpire. And the umpire is able to override any of the calls made by the TrackMan that they think is worth overriding. Those points were brought to us by Denise Cantu. She's part of our VIP group, and she's awesome. And that's a great point to make, Denise. So thank you for that.
That is an excellent point. And the home plate umpire does so much more than just call balls and strikes.
Yeah.
As far as calling fair, foul, home safe, or safe out at home, everything, and depending on the rotation, could be the crew chief. And now, I remember when this conversation first started, as far as robot umpires, people were saying, "Oh, the union will never let it happen because they're going to be taking jobs." It's like, no, it's not going to be taking jobs. If anything, it's going to be creating jobs, because I feel like you've got to have an umpire operating that system too. Up in the booth, you've got to have an umpire running the TrackMan system that's trained really well on how to read it. Because I remember when I was with the Owls, I was in the room with the TrackMan system, like I said, and there were times that we had to remind the guy operating it. He's like, "So wait, if it's this far off the plate, is it a strike still? Because it's calibrated for the middle of the plate." And so we were,
right.
He's like, "So wait, if it's this far off the plate, is it still a strike?" We're like, no. And I don't remember what it is, but we're like, "No, if it's this, it's a strike. If this is a ball, things like that." So like there was one time he's like, "Oh my gosh, that was 20 inches off the plate." I was like, "That wasn't 20 inches away from the catcher." It's like, that wasn't 20 inches off the plate. So
So in the VIP group, Vaughn slowly says that if he can't trust human eyes, right, then what makes you think you're going to feel comfortable with artificial intelligence doing the umpiring? And it takes away, his point is that it takes away the originality and the actual human error from the game. And then he makes a couple other comments which basically equate to a Pandora's box situation. Like, if we let technology into this part of baseball, where will it stop, and how much more technology are we going to let in? And where, what would that do to change the game? Because it goes beyond this issue goes beyond robot umpires. It goes beyond TrackMan calling balls and strikes down and relaying that message down to the umpires, because this is a gateway opportunity for more tech to come in and meddle with baseball. What do you think of that?
And see, I feel like that box is open with replay and other things as far as scouting, because there was some team, I can't remember who it was, but actually got in trouble for using a rangefinder, like a golf course rangefinder, for getting their outfielders at the proper depth. So they were basically shooting a laser out to the outfield and saying, all right, 2 more, like having somebody wave them, right, perfect. And then go to the center fielder, right, perfect. Using a rangefinder to get outfielders in the perfect position for each player. And now, since they can't use that, you see guys pull out their scouting reports out of their pocket.
Yeah.
If you notice that with outfielders, they'll do that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a whole lot of movement in the outfield, too. It's not just shifts in the infield. There's a lot of movement in the outfield these days.
Tons, yeah.
And I feel like that box is already opened with replay. And I don't know where else necessarily they can implement it, because you still got to have people play the game. And like I said, I've had umpires who I didn't trust their eyes. I've had umpires that didn't know how to call a curveball, and at the major league level, they're going to know how to call a curveball. They're going to know how to track a fastball coming in at 100 miles an hour into the strike zone. But the eyes can deceive you. And we've watched fastball. I encourage everybody to watch fastball on Amazon Prime. We're going to talk about it one of these times. We keep dropping hints about it, but we're going to talk about it one of these times because it's an excellent documentary. But that talks a lot about how fastballs even are deceiving to the eye. So,
of course.
So I don't necessarily trust an umpire's eye every single time, and I feel like having TrackMan and StatCast available to us proves that.
Yeah. Now, of all the people in the group that have argued this point, of which there are 3 or 4, Nick Lorenzo sides as close to my opinion as possible. He says, this is Nick Lorenzo, he says, I personally think it takes away from the game. An inconsistent strike zone makes a better player. So you have an umpire with a tight zone, and you step up your game and improve your accuracy. So same goes for the hitters as well. You won't get your pitch every time. So take away the low and away and the high inside pitches. And so why go for a low and away pitch if AI is going to call a ball, right? And that's exactly what I said earlier. And Nick and I agree. And I feel bad that you're the only one arguing for a home plate umpire here, Brad. But you are. It's interesting that we have this large group of people, and those who have chosen to comment disagree with this idea. Right?
Oh yeah, I feel like the conversation started when I just said yes, please.
Yes, you did.
To the article, it started this whole thing. But
it did.
But no, and I do feel like it comes from my experience behind the plate and seeing inconsistency with umpires, and also seeing inconsistency with umpires with, like I said, StatCast. That you do need to be better as far as being able to hit pitches outside of the zone, whatever, with an inconsistent zone. But you might not get the same call as a guy who got a different call 2 innings earlier, and that's what I don't like.
Yeah,
is that if something was called a ball earlier, it needs to be called a ball later in the game. It can't be called a strike. I agree. And that happens, and I don't like that.
There's not a fan in the world that would disagree with you there.
And that's what I want. I want consistency on that.
But my question for you is, do you think that your opinion represents most of baseball fans, or do you think that most baseball fans don't want an electronic umpire?
I think most baseball fans don't want an electric umpire because they do like the human element. I think I represent a small pocket of people who do want it.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of players want it. A lot of the great hitters want it because they're sick and tired of an inconsistent strike zone, because there's nothing more frustrating than going up there and having a ball 6 inches off the plate called as a strike. And you're like, I would have to throw my bat at that. I can't reach that ball.
Right.
You know, there's nothing more frustrating than that, especially if you've been hitting well and you've been seeing the ball and the strike zone well. You know, to have somebody come out and tell you that what you thought was a ball was a strike, you're like, I know for a fact that wasn't a strike.
Right.
Like, that's irritating, and I can see players getting really irritated and wanting robot umpires in that respect, and I can see fans wanting a robot umpire in that respect. But I do see the other side of the fence here, as far as loving the human element. I just feel like we're at a point where we can expect more. We have more available, so we can expect more from these umpires. All right, well, let's take another short break, and we will come back and talk about some predictions for the second half of the season.
Hey, babe, I'm headed to concessions. Do you want me to grab you something?
Yeah, anything, whatever you're getting.
Okay, I saw a burger. I'll probably grab that.
No, that doesn't sound good.
Okay, I think there's barbecue, probably some nachos.
I don't think I want either of those either. But just get me anything.
What do you want?
I saw a hot dog earlier.
Okay, I can do that.
Well, no.
Couples may quarrel, but baseball is for lovers. Shop the Lovers Collection at 9plusus.com. Welcome back, baseball family. We are going to get into some ridiculousness right now.
We are. It's true.
Here's the deal. It is time, now that we have begun the second half of the season, it is time for the beloved tradition of making predictions. And
That mean nothing.
That mean nothing. And we are going to freely admit that we are not omniscient. We have no idea what is going to happen. And we'll also admit to a little bit of homerism and the fact that what we want to have happen might just take priority over what we think will happen. So, okay, let's just let's do the easy one, okay? Let's talk about the American League.
Yeah.
And who do you think's got the AL West?
That's the easiest of them all. I mean, Houston is so far above everybody else that I don't think that's even close.
Agreed. Shall we move on?
Let's move on. Continue, sir.
How about the Central?
The Central. So I was looking at this, and honestly, I wasn't real sure about this one. Okay. Just because I talk about all the time how home runs aren't necessarily sustainable, but you can win a division with home runs, especially with the rate the Twins are winning them.
Yep.
Twins are going to take the Central.
Even with Kluber on his way back, potentially.
Even with Kluber potentially on his way back. Correct.
Okay.
Because the Twins, they hit so many home runs, and it's top to bottom. It's not like it's two guys hitting all those home runs.
Yeah.
It's everybody.
Well, and let's not forget that they have a slightly better win percentage as of right now than Houston does as well.
Yes, they do.
Obviously, you have to take that into consideration with who they're playing, whatever, with the other teams they're facing. And so I agree with you. I think the Twins are definitely going to take the AL Central, but I do think it will be a tighter game than we think between the Twins and the Indians.
Yeah, it's going to be a race. The Twins have 6.5 games on the Indians right now.
Yeah.
As of this is Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
The Twins have 6.5 games. That's going to close, and it's going to be a race.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's going to be a race. So,
but I think the Twins will pull it out for sure.
Yes, I agree.
AL East, Brad. Who you got in the AL East?
Yankees. I've been saying it for weeks. The Yankees they're so good.
Yeah.
They're so dang good. There's no beating those guys.
I agree.
I mean, obviously you can beat them, but in the long run, you're not going to.
They lost to the Rays today, 2-1. and it was a bit sloppy defense is what happened. Anyway, that's beside the point. What I want to know is, we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
Tell me about your National League. Let's start in the West again.
All right, my National League, Dodgers.
Yeah.
There's nobody that can compete with the Dodgers over there.
12.5 games up.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much over. I mean, the D-backs could come back and give them a run.
Yeah, the D-backs have been playing well lately.
Yeah.
I mean, they've won 4 in a row, but I don't see them making enough of a run to be able to catch the Dodgers because they're just so good. Dodgers are just so good.
They are amazingly good.
Yes.
It's terrifying, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's bounce around this one really quick and go to the East because I think the Central is more interesting. So who do you think's got it in the East?
I think the Braves have the East. They're an incredibly talented team. They are young, so they might kind of run out of gas there at the end. The Nats have done a good job staying consistent. I wouldn't be surprised if the Nats did something and overtook them late in the season, like mid-September, because right now they're still 6 games back, but there's a whole lot of baseball to be played.
A ton.
I really wouldn't be surprised though if the Nats caught up and it snuck by them in September, but I'm going to take the Braves.
Yeah. See, I feel exactly the same way. I'm not going to disagree with you at all. You've just said everything I think.
Get out of my head.
I think everybody else is in trouble over there. It's pretty much a done deal for Miami. So.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right, so then let's take the Central, which I think is the NL Central is the most interesting baseball on the planet right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Cubs are in first place. They're a game and a half up again Saturday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
The Brewers are in second place. Then you got the Cards that are only 3 games back, 3.5 in fourth place with Pittsburgh, and then Cincinnati's only 5.5 games back.
Yeah, which is crazy because they're 6 games under 500.
I know. So is this a question of who's the best of the worst? I hate to say that, but if you look around the league at win percentage and you just take we're sight test guys. So I want to watch and evaluate visually. But the Dodgers are playing 645 at 645. The Braves are at 598 and the Cubs in first place are at 527.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge jump to go from 645 in LA to Chicago's 527.
Well, the Cubs would be in third place in the East.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that says something right there, that if you're going to make the playoffs in the Central, you have to win that division. And I do feel like there is something to be said for everybody feeling like they're in that race. I'm going to take the Cubs in it because of experience, mostly, on that roster. I mean, those guys, they've all been there. And I know the Brewers were in the NLCS last year. But I like the Cubs there to take that race. Just like I said, because they have the experience, they have the managerial brains top to bottom, I guess. If they need to make a move at the trade deadline, Epstein's going to make one. He's going to fill in a hole somewhere, and Madden's going to figure out how to make them fit. So I think they are so well run that they have a plan to separate themselves from the pack later in the season. Yeah.
I would like to see the Cubs take the NL Central. That's what I want deep down, because I want to see a Yankees Cubs or a Yankees Dodgers Fall Classic. That's what I want in my heart.
Yeah.
But I think the Brewers stand a better than excellent chance of taking the NL Central. I think they're hungry. I think they're angry. I think they're just really well managed, really well. And I think the way that the owners have set them up, they don't make as many moves as everybody else, and they're really steady. So I think that the Brewers are going to take the Central.
Oh,
I don't want them to.
I wouldn't be surprised, though. I that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I think that is a great team, and I think they have, like, dare I say, the best outfield in the major leagues. Could be. With Braun, Kane, and Yelich, and then my guy, I love Ben Gamble. He's their fourth outfielder. He's an
Ben's
underrated
awesome.
player in my opinion, but he's their fourth outfielder. And with those guys out there, I don't feel like there's anything that can fall on the ground out there. That's so much speed.
Right. Yeah. Then speed is the key. So we talk in baseball, we talk a lot about being due, right? You're due up, you go in a slump or whatever. And I feel like that's where the Brewers are sitting right now. I think they're due. That's how I feel. So I'm not going to say this is my crew, but I think this year, they're going to take it.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's stay in the National League right now and talk about wild card races. Okay, so right now in the wild card for the National League, we've got the Nationals, the Washington Nationals are a game and a half up, and then we've got the Brewers are a half a game back, the Diamondbacks are a half a game back, the Phillies are even.
Yeah, the Phillies have that second spot right now.
They've got the second spot right now, and then the Rockies are only a game and a half back as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty testy.
The Padres are 2 games back. Watch out for the Padres.
You've been saying that. You've been saying that for like 2 or 3 weeks now, and I think you're right.
They could make it interesting.
Yeah. The National League is so fun right now. So, okay, who do you have winning the wild card slot in the National League?
Okay. So I have the Diamondbacks because they're gonna try to catch the Dodgers. There's no way they don't try to catch the Dodgers.
Sure.
And then I'd like to have the Brewers, but because they're in that bad division, I don't think they're gonna be able to. I don't think they're gonna be. It's either win the division or don't make the playoffs. Because I don't think they're gonna have the record to be able to get in the wild card. And initially, I'm gonna have to run back everything I said about the Nats because I forgot why I did not have them in the wild card because I had the Phillies and the D-backs, and now I remember why I didn't have the Nats in the wild card. They have a tough schedule coming up.
Yeah,
they have to play the Braves a lot. They have to play the Dodgers a few times. They've got some tough games coming up, and I mean, if they can win them, more power to them. But I don't know. I don't know if they will.
I don't know. It's going to be hard.
Yeah, I mean, especially mid to late August, they're kind of running a gauntlet there, and it can get difficult that time of season to win those tough games.
Yeah.
So I've got the Phillies and D-backs in the National League wild card.
And who takes it though?
Oh, who takes the wild card game?
Yeah. Who wins the wild card game?
One game I take the Phillies.
Okay.
Yeah, I think part of that is I think Bryce Harper's working his way out of his early season slump.
Sure.
His batting average has gone up every month this season. I think I saw his slugging. No, not his slugging.
Well, having his picture up all over Cleveland didn't hurt.
Yeah. Well, I think it took some pressure off though, not making the All-Star game.
Yeah, I think you're right.
He went in there with all these expectations, and I think it was like, okay, I'm not an All-Star this season. Just go out there and play my game. And he's done well the last 2-3 weeks. I think he's batting the last 2 weeks like
2,
like 4 or something. So
it's been
he's got more
good weeks.
He's got more hits than strikeouts the last 2 weeks. So I think he's on his way out of it, and that's going to be a big step in the right direction for the Phillies to really start doing things. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So who do you have in the National League wild card?
I'm giving it to the D-backs.
Yeah. Who's the other team you have going to that?
The
that
Phillies.
wild card game?
Same.
Yeah.
Same. Phillies. Because I think in the Central they're just going to get beat down, right? I think like you said, if you don't win the division in the NL Central, you're just going to be beaten and bloody, and it won't matter.
Yep.
So I say Phillies D-backs, and I'm giving it to the D-backs.
Yeah.
I don't have a justification. I just want them to win.
Well, I'm sitting here right next to my D-backs hat, so I should say it D-backs, but I think
it's just a blind prediction.
It is. It's true. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
No, it's fun though.
It is fun. It's a whole lot of fun. All right.
So, okay, go ahead.
Oh, I should say AL wild card. Who do you have going to the wild card game? The 2 wild card teams.
Right. I don't really know. I think
that's not an answer.
I don't know. I think it's definitely, if it could be Tampa Bay and Boston, that's how it would go.
Yeah. It could.
If that was possible, that's how I'd say it goes.
Yeah, that is possible.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I'm saying, like, in my world, that's what happens.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I have Boston,
and then Boston wins.
Yeah,
and they play in the NL or ALCS or DS.
ALDS. Yeah. So I have Boston and Cleveland.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think the Rays are gonna fall back a little bit. The Red Sox are gonna go on a surge. Because I just feel like they're too good to be this bad. And I say this bad, they're 9 games over 500.
Yeah.
It just feels like they've been atrocious.
Yeah. It's true, and they're not. And the Rays they're only 7 games back, and they are killing it right now. They beat, like I said, they beat the Yankees today.
Yep.
So, I love the East, though. I think the AL East is where it's at.
That's going to be the race to watch.
Like,
the AL East, and the NL Central are going to be fun races to watch. And granted, the Yankees are kind of running away with it, but as far as the wild card, pay attention to the AL East. I feel like,
yep,
that's the place you're going to want to watch with the AL wild card.
Yep, I totally. And then you have Boston winning or Cleveland.
I have Boston winning.
Me too. Okay.
Yeah, Boston beating Cleveland.
Yeah, buddy.
So, we have our division wildcard races. Before we get on to the World Series, last year in the second half, Christian Yelich went on a tear. Like, it was unbelievable. I mean, I want to say he almost hit 500 for the second half of the season, won the MVP.
Right.
He definitely deserved it. He's carried into this season playing incredibly well. Do you see anybody breaking out like Yelich did? Surprising us? Who would you like to see surprise us like that? Do you have anybody like that?
Wow, that is a great question. I had not considered that. A lot of the guys that I want to see break out have been hurt.
Yeah.
So that makes that really hard.
Oh, and it doesn't have to necessarily, I don't feel like it has to be a Yelich breakout, because I feel like anybody who watched him in the World Baseball Classic a couple years ago knew he was good.
Yeah.
But we didn't necessarily know he was this good. Right?
Yeah.
And maybe it might be a comeback player. Like Judge might come out of an injury in the second half.
Right.
And just shred the league, Because personally, like I said, I feel like Bryce Harper's busting out of this slump. I think he's going to have an amazing second half. I really do.
Yeah.
It's just going to be, I don't want to say out of this world, but he's going to play great in the second half, is my hunch with the way that I've seen him go lately.
Okay, I have an answer for you now.
Okay.
I can't believe I'm going to say this.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Wow, this is heavy. I want to see... Jeez. Okay, I want to see Clint Frazier get traded from the Yankees to another contender team. I don't care who it is. And I want the pressure of playing in New York to not hinder him anymore. Not that it has, just that it's a lighter pressure everywhere else.
Yeah.
So I want to see him get traded to another team that's contending, and then I want to see that pressure shift for him, and I want him to just kill it. That's what I would love. That would just make my heart happy.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. That it's a different kind of pressure playing in New York, because you hear guys say all the time, it's different winning in New York.
Totally.
Right?
It beat Sonny Gray into the ground.
Yeah, it did.
He was dominant in Oakland, and then he came to New York, and it was just
a shell.
Nothing, man. It was like smoke bombs. Yeah.
Yeah, I seen on Twitter last year, there were people like Red Sox fans are like, should we send flowers to Sonny Gray, thanking him for letting us go to the World Series?
Seriously. Well, and my very favorite Tyler Clippard before him.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't talk about. That's the only time I'll utter his name.
He who must not be named.
Without pejorative terms in my home. And it's too bad, because he's former All-Star.
Yeah.
And he's doing fine now, but man, jeez, 2016 was so hard.
And I think that's another pod that I think that's another subject we can go over on another day entirely, because you've got guys like Zach Greinke who's admitted that he gets
Yeah.
nervous in the playoffs.
Totally.
And I think it's big of him to admit that.
I agree. Another guy though that got so this would be my number 2, and only because I'm paying more attention to him now, is Pete Alonso on the Mets team.
Yeah.
I know the Mets are really struggling this year, and it just
In so
is
many
too
ways.
bad. But it is an incubation chamber almost for guys like Pete Alonso.
Mm-hmm.
And he is just maturing without any of the stress and any of the pressure of being on a contender team. And I would love to see him crank it up. Yeah, man, that dude is for real.
The Mets are one of those teams that have been so bad and so dysfunctional for so long that I almost feel bad for them and I want them to be good. But at the same time,
Yeah.
the Mariners have been that way for so long. I'm like, but not until after the Mariners are good. 'Cause they've been to the World Series. The Mariners have never been to the World Series.
That's true. That's another podcast episode, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
All right. We talk about the World Series a lot, about teams
Mhm.
we think are going to be in it. Lock in your prediction right now. Who do you think is going to be in the World Series?
Yankees. Like I said a minute ago, I want the Braves or the Dodgers. I don't care who it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I want the Braves more than I want the Dodgers. But I think it's going to be LA,
Mm-hmm.
and that'll be magical because it'll be the first time they've seen each other in the Fall Classic since 1981.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it had been
Which
that long. I guess it makes sense, though.
It is stupendous. Just the
Yeah.
thought of it
Yeah.
should make you chill and tingle all over with glee. I can't wait. I think that's what will happen. I think that baseball needs that.
Yeah.
And man, it's going to be amazing if that happens. But I want the Braves to win and go to the World Series because I live in Braves country.
Right.
And I would just die to be mocked constantly by my neighbors and to throw it in their faces. And so it would just be so much fun because you can't beat that kind of rivalry climate.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Absolutely.
But I think it'll be LA and New York. What do you think?
I think LA and New York, and I think that would be good for baseball just because of the East Coast, West Coast thing.
Yeah.
And, there might be the whole Middle America thing might be a little alienated by it, but the Yankees have a nationwide fan base.
Oh, yeah. So does LA.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like those are the two big brands that could do East Coast, West Coast and do well. Like if it was the Mets and the Angels, I don't think it would do as well. But since it's the Yankees and the Dodgers, something about those names, those brands, I think will do so well in a World Series that it would just be off the charts, and that would be electric. That would be such a fun series to watch.
Oh, man, it really would be. And it would be fun because the Yankees, like I said, I think last week, the Yankees haven't made a World Series appearance this decade yet. And it'll be the first time, if they don't, it'll be the first time ever that they've not made a World Series appearance every decade.
Wow.
So there's that. And then on top of that, these guys on the Yankees team right now, there are very few that... Is Chapman the only one who knows what it's like to be in a World Series?
CC, right? He's still on the roster.
Oh, CC. Okay. And then some of these new trade guys I don't know about, like Encarnacion. I don't know if he's got any World Series experience.
Cleveland.
But, that's right, Cleveland.
Yep.
Okay, we're trying really hard to figure this out.
Yeah.
Whereas, when you go talk about LA, it's like, well, everybody.
Yes, because they've been there the last 2 years.
They all know what's going on. They all know how to handle it. They all have the maturation done, over with.
Yep.
So there's no yips there.
That's
None.
right.
And I think that'll be interesting with these baby bombers up against a really super tight, seasoned Dodgers team.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. That would be the perfect series and the perfect series to watch.
Yep.
Let's pray for it every night.
every single night.
We apologize, but this section has been cut for time and content. You may be able to catch this at a later date in what we're going to call our grab bag episode. And now back to the show.
Yeah, baseball family, and after another burst of unbecoming laughter, we're back with you. And I just want to remind you to jump on shop.9plusus.com. That's shop.9 and then plus, like PLUS.com. And don't forget to pick yourself up some awesome baseball t-shirt designs. We have a couple of hats in there that you're really going to love.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
And don't forget that it all goes to support a great cause where we help get underprivileged children baseball equipment so that they can play the game we all love.
That's right. And don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, review, whatever you can do to help support the podcast so we can keep bringing this to you every week. And thanks again for joining us, baseball family. We will catch you next time.